Hello everyone. So in this continuing series where we are talking about all those user research methods which enables us to design with users or evaluate with users. So in our previous lecture we were talking about usability evaluation methods and the overall general way in which they are conducted. So for this and two subsequent lectures we will take three very important usability evaluation methods and we will look through case studies how to implement them. So we start our journey by discussing what is heuristic evaluation. So the key learning outcomes of this particular lecture is we will explain how heuristic evaluation is conducted. It is an evaluation which is done by experts who inspect the whole application and identify where are the problems which can be rectified by the design team. We will apply Nielsen's 10 usability heuristics to identify and rate usability problems in an interface. Then we will run a structured evaluation with multiple evaluators and synthesize findings into prioritized fixes. So what are these usability heuristics? So what expert evaluators are supposed to do? They are supposed to inspect a design against certain recognized heuristics. So basically these heuristics are certain kind of guiding principles which help you to identify problems without actual user testing. So when I say actual user testing, it implies that testing with the real users. So Nielsen's 10 heuristics remain the industry standard for doing this. Always remember, heuristic evaluation is expert driven. So the expert should have enough experience in order to be classified. So for doing this, when you are doing heuristic evaluation, try to do it with about 3 to 5 experts. Usually within that number, you are able to identify most of the problems that the design might be having. Each one of them are supposed to inspect the design independently and identify their findings. Then they will put it down into a report. They will come together for a meeting and discuss about it and create one consolidated report. The advantage of heuristic evaluation is you can start it from very early phases of design, and it is supposed to be an iterative process. After each design cycle, you will conduct a usability evaluation. It is a complementary method, so it does not replace actual user testing. However, always remember that for user testing, you have to invest a lot of time, a lot of resources, because you have to identify different kinds of users, different contexts of usage, and then you have to perform this experiment. So that is more viable in later stages of the prototype. However, heuristic evaluation can be carried out before conducting actual user tests to identify as many design problems as possible at a much faster pace and with much lesser resources. So the Nielsen's 10 usability heuristics that we will be discussing today are visibility of system status, match system and real world, user control and freedom, consistency and standards, error prevention, recognition over recall, flexibility and efficiency, aesthetics and minimalist design, help users recover from errors, and help and documentation. Now let's look at each of these heuristics with examples. So you can use these heuristics in your mind at the back of your head even when you are designing something, so that when the heuristic evaluation happens, your design comes out to be as less problematic as possible. So the first one is about visibility of system status. So the principle over here is the system should always keep informed about what is going on through appropriate feedback within a reasonable time. So let's say you see a loading sign or something which is showing downloading with a progress bar and saying it is 65%, message sent along with a symbol, the word, and then this much battery is left. I am uploading file and this is what the status is. So the system's current status is made visible by using many of such features. What kind of diagnostic test that you do when you are doing heuristic evaluation using these heuristics? I try to see after any user action, does the system give feedback within about 100 milliseconds? Does the user always know the current state or not. If any of these two parameters are violated, then you are supposed to flag that in your report as a violation. You have to also rate the violation on the basis of its severity. We will talk about this particular thing after we have finished discussing all the 10 heuristics. So, let us go to the second one. Second heuristic says that there has to be a match between the system and the real world. So, what it implies is the system should speak the user's language, familiar words and concepts rather than system oriented jargons. So, say for example, when I have delete or so I want to remove something. So, we are aware that a trash can represents deleting something, throwing away something out of our mind, out of our home. If I want to schedule something, then a calendar icon, because it matches with our perception of date and month and year. If it is an e-commerce site and you want to show that you are putting things in the cart, then the cart looks like a shopping cart, like how we are used to in the real world. So, the diagnostic test that we do for this heuristic are: would a non-technical user understand every label, icon and the message without a manual? So, you ask this question once you are going through each and every screen, each and every task, and then if the heuristic is violated, then you flag it with a mention on what severity scale this is a problem for users to achieve what they have to achieve. Third heuristic, it is about users' control and freedom. So, the principle over here is users often perform actions by mistake. They need a clearly marked emergency exit to leave an unwanted state. So, say for example, I have things like undo, so which can revert the last action. I have things like redo, reapply the last undone action. The back button, go to the previous page or screen. Cancel, stop the current action. Close the window or the dialog that we have opened. Discard the draft, delete unsaved changes. We can also have confirmation for destructive actions. So, let us say delete file, this action cannot be undone, and then I still have this option, I can cancel it or I can confirm that I want to delete it. I want to discard a particular draft, so I again have an option, either I can keep editing it or I can discard it. So, the user has control and freedom. So, what this test implies is, can the user reverse any action quickly? Is there always an exit from every state? So, I will go through my application that I am evaluating, understand if this is violated, then I will flag it. Then comes the consistency and standards. So, what this one implies is, as you can see, control plus S. We have learnt through practice that whenever there is control plus S, it implies it is meant for saving something. When I have something called learn more and there is a blue underlined text, it implies it is a link, and if I click onto it, I will learn more about that particular aspect. If I see a cross button, then it always closes whatever I was trying to do. If I see this gear icon, I have also understood that it implies settings and I can go there and make changes to the settings. So, what this implies is we need to follow consistency and standards. So, users should not have to wonder whether different words, situations or actions mean the same thing. So, we follow platform related conventions, or there are certain conventions like control S, which is also platform agnostic. So, the diagnostic test over here is, can the user predict the result of an action from experience with similar actions everywhere in the product. So, again we will go through the design and see whether this is being violated and flag it. Then comes error prevention. So, let us say I have this particular form to be filled up. So, as long as I have not filled up everything in this form, this submit button does not get activated. As soon as I have filled everything, the submit button gets activated. So, what it implies is, by mistake I cannot submit without filling up all the information. Let's say I want somebody to fill up the date. So, as soon as I click on this select a date, a calendar opens, and from the calendar I can select the exact date. Again, this particular feature ensures that you enter the date in the desired format, because certain people are, let's say, used to entering date in DD, MM, YY, others in MMDD, YY. Somebody might also use YYYY, so 4 digits, while others use only the 2 digits of that. So, by having this picker, because I know that I am born on certain date in certain year, and then the system will accept the input in the format that it wants to accept. So, I ensure that there is less chances of error. Similarly, if I have a irreversible action like delete account, delete your account permanently, and then I am having this deliberate pause because this question came to me. So, I will read through it. There is a deliberate pause. Only if I actually want to delete it, I will press delete permanently. So, error prevention is even better than a good error message is a careful design that prevents the problem from occurring in the first place. So, as far as possible, try to have a prevention. If prevention is not possible, so the first example that we saw, which was about the submit button does not get activated till I have filled up all the data field, that was to ensure prevention. The second example also falls under prevention, me entering the date in the wrong format. Now, the third one is something which falls under the category where I am informing people that if you press this button delete, then it will, your account is permanently deleted. So, as far as possible, do prevention. If prevention is not possible, then try to have a way in which people have a pause so that they can think, and then they can consciously make the decision, yes, I want to delete it. So, the diagnostic test for this heuristics is, what is the most common error users make? So, first you have to understand that. Can the interface be redesigned to make that error impossible? And flag each time I identify that there is a problem. Now, coming recognition rather than recall. So, let's say I have a drop down menu which gives me certain options. So, because of this, I know that I want to select either oldest first, or I want to organize things as name and A to Z or Z to A, whatever your categories are. So, here in this case, I do not have to remember what I should type over there, whereas the drop down menu appears and I know exactly what I want to select. Now, coming to recently used files. So, you must have seen in Word, PowerPoint and all those other applications where you can go to this recent and it gives you the set of files that you had been recently working on. Again, helps you in recognition rather than having to recall the name of the exact file. Then comes autocomplete. So, as I am putting in the detail over here, all the options which meet the selected set of words, they start populating. So, this autocomplete also helps in recognition rather than having to recall exactly what was the name of the document, or let's say whether I put project underscore proposal or whether I wrote project space proposal and so on. Then I can have breadcrumbs in a website. So, let's say a website has multiple levels for me to go down. The breadcrumbs help me in knowing where exactly I am, and if I want to go back to the main level where I started from, I can quickly navigate through it and go to the level that I am interested in going to. You can have some things like visual navigation instead of a command line. So, I have selected a home, and from home I get other options coming up. So, when I press on to new, it will do something. So, here the navigation is visual rather than me having to type something on a command line. So, what this heuristics of recognition rather than recall says is, minimize memory load by making objects, actions and options visible. Users should not have to remember information across screens. So, the diagnostic test for this particular heuristic is, does the user ever need to remember something from a previous screen to complete a task on the current one? If that is the case, then you have a violation on which you can do design improvement. Now coming to the 7th heuristics, it is about flexibility and efficiency of use. So let's say I can have keyboard shortcuts. So people who are expert users, they can use these shortcuts because while using the interface they learned about it. So as soon as I can give them the option to select this to create their own shortcuts. I can also have some standardized shortcuts, let's say Control S for save, Control N for new. I can also do the same for gesture based activities, and all I have to remember is it has to be recognition versus recall. So, the previous all the heuristics that we have discussed already, they should not be violated when I am trying to do this. However, these shortcuts, whether it be keyboard shortcuts or gesture based shortcuts, they help in bringing in efficiency of use for expert users. Customize the toolbars. So, give an option to customize the toolbar for people depending on their kind of usage. They want to have certain functions appear before other functions because those are the most used functions for them. Also, you can have some kind of macros. So, automate wherein you are automating all these tasks with one click. You can also have something like double click to edit something. You can also give some power user settings like preload the linked data, enable background saving. So, whichever I want to have, because I am a power user and I have certain kind of usage scenario, I can select those for my application. So, it brings in flexibility for different kinds of users because every user starts as a novice user and slowly graduates into an expert user. So, for expert users as well as novice users, for both of them the application becomes useful, and there is for the expert users you are able to build in efficiency. So, the principle over here is accelerators, invisible to novices, speed up interactions for experts without burdening the beginners. So, here the diagnostic test that we do is, can an expert complete frequent tasks in far less time than a novice? Are shortcuts discoverable but not required? Then coming to H8. For H8, I am looking at aesthetic and minimalist design. So, clean layouts is one of the most important factors. Progressive disclosure. So, if I have lot of things to be filled up or decision made through multiple options, slowly keep disclosing them. I can have advanced options which are hidden behind something like more over here and are useful for only expert level users. I can also have generous white spaces. So, you can see that I have lots of white spaces which makes it easy for my user to read through it, to see things in certain chunks. So, I will see this as one chunk and I will see this as an overview as another one, and this is yet another chunk, and this is the action chunk which can be done. When I am trying to design something, design in a manner that the elements that you bring in are not merely meant for decoration and decoration creating clutter. So, focus on the content and action that help users achieve what they want to achieve with graphical elements, text elements, color as minimalist as possible so that clutter is not created. So, the key principle for aesthetics and minimalist design is, interfaces should not contain irrelevant or rarely needed information. Every extra unit competes with the relevant content. So, the diagnostic test that you use is, can any element be removed without reducing the task completion rate? If yes, remove it. Then coming to H9. So, H9 says, help users recognize and recover from the errors. So, how do we do that? You speak in user's language, which means use clear human readable messages that explain what happened and how to fix it. So, say for example, the password entered is wrong. So, here it is giving me exactly what is wrong about it. Password must be at least 8 characters. Let us say there is a confirm password over here, and if I put this message down here, use a mix of letters, numbers and symbols for a stronger password, that is not the right placement. This should have actually come over here, so that in the first place when somebody was trying to enter the password, they wouldn't have made the mistake. Now coming to be specific and helpful. Provide details and suggestions that help users resolve the issue quickly. So let's say file not found. The file report.pdf could not be found. Now, okay, I could not find it, but can you help them so that they are able to recover from it? So they did find a version 2 over here. So the system helps you. Did you mean this report version 2? And then I have the option for this search file, or I have option to go and click onto this if I think, yeah, that report 2 was actually the file that I was looking for. Now, next one is guide the next step. Tell users what they can do next to move forward. So, say for example, my Wi-Fi is offline, you are offline, check your internet connection and try again. So, I can try again, or I can decide to keep working offline. Stay positive and reassuring. Use a calm tone that reassures users the problem is solvable. So, say for example, payment successful. Thanks, your payment of $49 was processed successfully. A receipt has been sent to this email address, because you can see that on this very screen I did not put the receipt. The receipt comes somewhere here, view receipt. If this message was not present that it has been sent to this email address, you will feel the urgency to go and view the receipt and save the receipt from then and there, because you know that I am not sure whether the email has gone to the right email address or not. But just adding this small piece of information reassures you that the work has happened successfully and the receipt has been emailed to you. Now avoid technical jargons. So, we could not save your changes. Something went wrong on our end. Your changes are safe. Try again. Contact supporter. Now, contact support. So, this is the right way of doing it. Instead of writing error 500 internal server error, what this means and what this means might be the same thing, but this second one really does not help. The user does not know how to recover, the user does not know what does this error 500 internal server error implies, was their file even saved, or do they have to repeat the work. So, the first information gives you this assurance like what went wrong, and it also helps them to recover from the error. So, what this H9 says, the principle here is error messages should be in plain language, precisely indicate the problem and suggest a constructive solution. The diagnostic test that you use is, does every error message say what they went wrong and what to do about it? Are there 0 cryptic codes or not? If not, then you flag it. Coming to the last heuristics, which is about help and documentation. So, what we do over here is see how to give the right kind of help at the right kind of place and how to document all of that. So, say for example, I can build in contextual tooltips. So, I hover over to a certain place. So, let us say I am here and it tells me the maximum number of API requests your application can make per minute. So, this number is that. So, as soon as I am there, I know what that means. So, I am not overburdened with the information, but I have the help just at the point where I need the help. So, that is about contextual tooltips. Now, coming to inline help text. So, let us say you are supposed to enter a password and you have been already given a guidelines that it has to have 8 characters, 1 alphanumeric, 1 symbol XYZ, and you start typing it. So, you can give a help which says, okay, 8 characters done, 1 alphanumeric done, and they get tick marked and you know, okay, so I am going right, I am doing everything the right way. Let us say I want to enter the email address. And then again, if you forgot to put @ or .com or anything after that @ thing, then you can be given a message that there is an error over there. Similarly, when it is phone number, if you want to include the country code, then upfront give the inline text which says that that is there. Not only that, over here you can also have a subdued text or a light gray text which does not interfere with this main text, which is phone number, and you can tell them the format. So, you give this as an example. You can also have your help coming as a question mark. When you have this help as a question mark, it is an additional step somebody has to take to identify the help. But if the help is provided in this format or over here, then one does not need to go a level down or does not need to do an action with their input devices in order to know what they have to do over there. Coming to searchable FAQs. So, we all have questions. We want to understand. You can have lots of questions, but what it implies is I will have to go through all these questions and try to identify which one is the one that I am looking for. However, if you provide a search button over here, then just by typing, the most relevant questions can pop up and you can select from that. So, helps you in filtering down through a huge list of FAQs. Onboarding tutorials. So, guide new users with step-by-step boarding. You must have clearly seen that in so many apps and so on. So, it tells you how to go from step 1 to step 2 to step 3 and you learn how to do the different functions. Help for complex fields. So, let us say for example, somebody has to fill up the web URL, somebody has to give an authentication, then a secret code has to be there. So, this is a complex data field to be entered. So, in this particular context, you can always add a question mark which gives you additional information. So, I have put some information over here, but the task is pretty complex and requires further explanation. So, over there I use these question mark buttons for that further piece of information. So, the principle behind this help and documentation heuristics is, even if the system is usable without documentation, help should be easy to search, task focused and concise. So, the diagnostic test that you use is, can a stuck user find relevant help within about 30 seconds? Is the help contextual to what they are trying to do? So, in our subsequent lecture, what we will be doing is, we will take a real example of conducting a heuristic evaluation, go through all these steps and explain to you how it is actually conducted in the user research phase. So, the heuristics you need to know when you are designing, so that at the very stage of designing you are deliberately designing features so that users find it user friendly. And the next step is conducting a heuristic evaluation with the experts using these heuristics. That comes in the next lecture. See you then.